Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chris Buckle's Album Club. Now, today with me I have Ben
Hello there.
and Matthew.
I got the confession to make.
All right, um, today we are going to be here at the beginning of this video. We're going to be listing off the albums. We're going to give sort of our initial impressions on them. They will pairing are picked randomly, and then as we go on later in the video, we will actually listen to the album, and we will be back and we will give our thoughts on them. So right now, I'm going to reveal the two albums. You all ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah.
As I can.
All right, here are the albums. The albums are It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy and The 2020 Experience by Justin Timberlake.
Whoa.
What a baffling pairing.
Oh. Oh.
Um,
What a weird pairing.
That is a pairing. Um.
Abandon All Hope, Ye Who Enter Here.
Yeah.
Hot.
Uh,
Hot damn. Man, oh man.
All right.
That is.
All right, man. What are your thoughts on these albums going into them?
uh, so, I know Public Enemy. Obviously, we've discussed that in this channel. Oh, on this channel before. Briefly in the new metal episode, I think. So obviously, I have a positive opinion of Public Enemy. The Trinity Experience, I know what its album cover looks like. I believe, but I am, I don't know. Uh, I'm trying to think. I probably do know some of these songs. Obviously, whether I like them is a different question. Because I know one Justin Timberlake song that I don't like. That might be from a
Which
previous
one is
album
that?
now. I don't even remember what it was.
Was it filthy?
I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's my take. I mean, I think we could probably already guess what I can already kind of guess probably what my take's gonna be. Maybe it won't be that.
All right, Matthew. What are your initial thoughts going into this weird ass pairing?
First off, I would like to say this is the weirdest pairing. We've had very weird pairings like Scream and like Susie and the Banshees and Genesis and Tame Impala and
Otis.
Otis Redding. We got Kiss and Poco Harum. We got Bobby Caldwell and the Runaways. But this is the weirdest one.
The most
Even
of
the
all.
one, even though like a couple we've done has been more consistent than this. But I have definitely heard Public Enemy. Um, the which I'm trying to remember which album I've heard from them. Oh, wait a minute. I've heard this album before. This is the one album I've heard from. I thought it was a different Public Enemy album. I was thinking this was Fear of a Planet, but it wasn't. So yeah, I've definitely heard this album before. As for Justin Timberlake, I've heard this album. Um, I've I've definitely heard this album before. Yeah, I think it's an album that I'll be interested in seeing how I feel about it.
All right. And as for me, yeah, I haven't heard either one of these albums before. I don't care for Justin Timberlake. As for Public Enemy, I just don't really probably have enough information to really give any sort of opinion on them. So I'm going into this mostly blind, other than just kind of being familiar with what Justin Timberlake's music sounds like. I mean, I know kind of what to expect from Public Enemy as well. I expect to probably like it better of the two, but still, it's
I I legit thought this album was Fear of a Black Planet. I was legit like, oh, that's the album. That's the one that has Fight the Power in it, but it doesn't. Um, so
this
we'll see.
this is just very confusing pairing. And we're gonna go listen to these albums. I'm sure we're gonna have all sorts of weird moments while listening to these albums, and we will then, of course, be right back in just a few seconds for you, the viewer, and we will have listened to the albums, and we will give our thoughts on them. Alright, we've gone and listened to the albums now, and now we're back to discuss them. The first album was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy, and we are going to be starting with you, Ben. What were your thoughts on this album?
Oh yeah, this is one of the best hip hop albums of all time, or at least that I've heard. Man, obviously not like a major hip hop professional, but I really enjoy Public Enemy. This album is like one of the like creator albums. It's like along with its successor, um, is one of the great examples of how sampling can be used to create sound collages. Some of the songs on here have very large numbers of samples included. So that is further developed on other Public Enemy records. But the way that all the different like fragments of samples, so to speak, in Public Enemy and in It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is, I think, very like a significant step forward. I know I've discussed this in the new metal episode, and it feels like a Beatles episode, but in some ways, I think Public Enemy on this record almost develops what John Lennon was going for in Revolution 9, which I know is kind of a weird thing to say. But I do genuinely hold it. That kind of the trying to create the sounds of a revolution, the sounds of it. He was just trying to make a sound collage too literally, so to speak, in that. But this does create a sound collage, I would say, of the sounds of the revolution, both in this album and in the next one, that allow for the creation of that, like the way the screeching horns from the grunt, which is a song that's like an old funk song, or used in Rebel Without a Pause, for instance. I think is a good example of this kind of acting in a way that kind of in Revolution 9 was aiming to use with its call and sounds, like more accurately capturing that. Matthew, do you have something to say?
I do. So what you're saying is Public Enemy is like the brainchild of the Beatles indirectly.
Indirectly, or they're coming from probably similar movements. I'm not willing to assert, though it may be true. But I'm not willing to assert that it's directly descended from the Beatles. I think more accurately, it's directly descended from what's going on. Because I know Chuck D has cited that. And there are places in what's going on, the album, that I think also do something similar to Revolution 9 in a way, in a lot more functional way, by not being way too long. That try to capture like street noises and stuff, like including at the beginning of the album, at the beginning of the song, what's going on. And it's just kind of a continuation, and with the hip-hop sampling culture and the hip-hop sampling artistic form building in that direction, where it becomes more of a collage thing. So actually moving back towards, in some ways, what the idea in Lennon's mind was of Sounds of a Revolution and Revolution 9, without taking it as literally as he did. I think, I always cited Rebel Without a Pause as an example of a song like that. I also think the song Party for Your Right to Fight is a good song. It's Death Starts the Beastie Boys. It's pretty funny. And in some ways, Public Enemy and the Beastie Boys well, they're both representative of this kind of 1980s hip hop. I'd say that they're both like prime examples of that. I would also say that in some ways they represent two sides of a coin. The Beastie Boys, in the 80s at least, were aiming to represent kind of a party culture, a kind of a frivolous side of the partying scene that hip hop originated in the 70s from, albeit taken to kind of a frat boy theme. Well, Public Enemy is deriving from the political themes and the over a lot of the origins of hip hop in the 70s related to riots and the blackout. Um, and or taking these kind of new left strains in hip hop and bringing them to the forefront. That I would say already existed, but Public Enemy makes a thing as political. Well, they exist in the message, for instance. Um, there are these political themes in um, the existing hip hop culture or drawn out in this kind of new left. This is a very new left album, I would still say. There's a lot of influence from like the Black Panthers on here. I mean, specifically, once again, in Fight for Your Right to Party, and there's a lot of influence, I would say, yeah, from that. There's a little bit of this album, more of the next album, a little bit of Nation of Influence, a Nation of Islam influence that I don't like. So that's from one specific person who got kicked out not long after that. I'll hand it over to Matthew.
All right. This is gonna be an interesting take. I can I spoil something?
Yeah, sure.
Um, both of these albums I've listened before, and I think both of these albums I quite really liked. However, both of these albums I have criticisms of. I think I'm gonna be like slightly more negative than Ben. I think this is a good album. Um, uh, uh, I yeah, I think it's agreeable to say that this "It Takes a Nation" is one of the best rap albums. Even though, for to me, I remember re-listening to this, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is the type of hip hop I don't really like." The kind of like early, like '80s, kind of like early stage of hip hop that I kind of don't care but appreciate fine. Um, I think there isn't like a bad song in here. I think it's really enjoyable. I think the biggest one of the big I think one of the biggest criticism I have with this album is kind of too much of having Louis Farrakhan in this, which is not a good dude for a variety of
Heal,
reasons.
heal.
Uh, yeah, he was involved with Malcolm X's assassination. But yeah, I just didn't really like that. I think that kind of portrays the message of trying to be, Black power and the Black identity and involving someone like him. Um, but yeah, I thought it was a decent album.
All right, well,
Yeah,
Tom.
some ways kind of the nasty parts of the new left also get in. I mean, I do think Chuck D and stuff will probably see all about it, but and I don't think Chuck D is like bigoted against.
Yeah, I don't think like, oh,
Because like
they
that
were
is a different question.
overtly. Yeah, I don't
Um,
think they were like, oh yeah, we're very malicious. I think they were well, intended.
yeah, I mean Chuck. I mean, well, like, but yeah, they are too friendly with say some questionable elements of a new left. Both, I mean, Nisha Islam probably doesn't really deserve that term. People don't
I think
scream
it's
at
more
me.
like I
But they
think it's
also
more
like
like
have
Louis
influence
Farrakhan.
from like Bob Avakian in some of this, which is not great. Um, who's a weird 60s, 70s. He's still around, like Maoist leader, very odd guy. Sometimes says the N word despite being white. Um, and like there was some like weirdness in here. Like I both appreciate the political message in here, and also its nuances are not great in some places.
I
I,
agree.
I do think the
I
politics
would have to say
altogether
that
are
too.
good in here, but yeah, it flirts too much with kind of a both like a militant Maoist line and like a Nation of Islam line, which are not super compatible in my opinion. And Professor Graf in particular is bad. Um, and yeah, I mean it is pretty nuanced, but I think altogether as a work of art, the presentation of like kind of these like sound collages and stuff. I mean, and also I would say the political message more broadly, but especially the sound collages element of this walk and how the lyrics and stuff walk with them. I think makes it a really good album despite these problems.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with what Matthew was saying. I found some of the lyrics to be kind of problematic with their seemingly unabashed endorsement of Farrakhan. I didn't like that. I don't like Farrakhan. Regardless of how the music sounds, I thought that was certainly a pretty big mark on this album as a whole. Otherwise, I did think it was pretty well put together, pretty well produced. I certainly do think it is the better of the albums we listened to. Spoiler alert, I guess. Like I think it was generally pretty good. I'm not a huge hip hop fan myself, obviously, but I mean this is better than honestly probably a good number of albums we've listened to on this series. I actually generally I think liked the way this music sounded. With all the sampling and the rapping and whatever, I actually think the sound was pretty good, but some of the lyrics I took issue with, which Matthew already kind of, I guess, already explored more, probably better than I can. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I think the album was pretty good, but it does have some deep issues lyrically.
Yeah, and also like um, a weird thing that compared to both of these albums, and again, I won't spoil it. This one was shorter, but I felt like, man, I please finish. I almost nearly didn't finish this album, but I was like, no, I'm gonna finish this album. Um, but again, this is still a really good album. I liked it just fine. Um, Definitely, I like this less than the first time I've listened to this album, but I think it's a decent.
See, that's kind of opposite with me. When I got to the last song and Spotify looped back over to the fourth song, I was like, oh, is that it? I was like, I thought this was going to be a bit longer than that. I was like, oh.
Also, also there was a reason why I probably felt like, oh, this is tiring. But well, can we go to the next one,
Yeah,
or if
yeah,
you want to
yeah.
say anything else?
We'll move on. Next album is The Train Experience by Justin Timberlake. We're going to start with you,
Wait a
Ben.
second.
Since what?
Oh,
We
let's start
we
with
didn't
that.
go do a rap album. Sorry, I'm joking.
What do you mean by that?
No, no, like it feels because this is the strangest pairing we've ever had. Like we could have had what's going on or something. But uh, but you want me to do this?
Yeah, you should go first.
Okay, well,
All
Matthew,
right.
we'll let you go first to tell us what you think about
Oh
The Train Experience.
man, this is the first time this ever happened to me. I can't believe it. Um, okay, where to begin? I like this album. I listened to this before. I really liked it. However, to basically, I was alluding to this previously. I came out that like I like this album less. I still like this album. However, I felt like this album was too long. And this is someone who has liked this album. Um, there was like my favorite tracks on here are like Suit and Tie. I think Strawberry. Wait a minute. Let me look. Oh, wait. Chris, can you say something while I look at the track?
Yep,
Uh, track. Yeah, just say anything.
thank you. Anything. Yeah, I certainly
Uh,
thought this album had some pacing issues. The songs were way too long. It kind of drug on and on.
okay, okay, I got it. All right, so I remember the first track. I remember thinking I really liked Pusher Lover Girl. However, then and this is a problem that happens throughout the album. Some songs benefited from being longer, and then there's some songs that did not benefit from being longer. I just like you can just cut it, cut it, cut it. Like the big example was Pusher Love Girl, which I liked, but then when it kept going, I'm just like, please end it, please, please. But um, and then like some tracks that I listened to again with this album, like Don't Hold the Wall and Tunnel Vision, which I like vastly disliked, which is like probably an example of like some criticisms that people rightfully have against Justin Timberlake, was he tries too hard to be uh not white. Um um you know, but like there are some tracks that, like those tracks I really like are Suit and Tie, Strawberry Bubblegum, Spaceship Coupe, Batgirl, Mirrors, and then Blue Ocean Floor. I think that the second half of the album is way stronger than the other. Like, um, although like I think Let the Groove In, I thought was too long. I think you could have shortened it. But like the songs I think worked being longer were like Spaceship Coupe, Mirrors, and Blue Ocean Floor. Um, and but yeah, I think probably most likely the biggest criticism of this album is that um, the songs are too long. I don't know if I'll speak over people, but I think that the songs are some of the songs benefited from being longer pace, and then there are some album songs that you're like you could have cut this like 3 minutes. But yeah, I basically did an opposite of Ben, who he mostly did the It Takes a Nation, and I mostly talked about was the one who had the most to say about um, 2020 experience. So yeah, I'll leave that. That's all.
Shockingly, he stole most of my points.
Oh damn!
I was not
Place.
expecting that, honestly. Okay, so basically, my biggest issue with this album is that these songs are way too long. Literally, after listening to the first song, I was like, "Is that the whole album?" Of course, it wasn't. It was just the first song, but it felt like it.
Wait, Ben, can I? I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you finish.
It's like I don't know. I mean, all of these songs, except for that goal, I guess, felt like they were too long. Why are some of these songs over 8 minutes long? I don't know. Especially like Push the Love Goal. It's a cringe overused metaphor. Number one, that
Yeah,
love and
but
drugs is an overused metaphor, and I don't need 8 minutes of it. Honestly, if that song was 2 minutes long or something, I would have been able to tolerate it. Like it was like would have been fine. Like I will be honest, there were little elements of some of these songs I liked. Like it wasn't like the Kiss album or whatever. There were elements of these songs I liked that I think worked well. There were parts of Suit and Tie I thought worked fine. Um, for instance, the Not opening. But I thought that there were parts of these songs that were kind of just decently. I mean, passable. I mean, too much. I mean, I don't know, like almost like a just kind of like a soul pop album. It's just the Timberlake doing is kind of. He has kind of a vibe that makes it kind of for me, but like,
I agree.
uh, it would have been fine if it wasn't so long. And it's not like this album is like extraordinarily long. I don't think. I think it's let's see, it is an hour and well, the deluxe edition is an hour and 19 minutes.
No, if it's the standard, it's 70 minutes.
Yeah,
And that
it was
was
just longer than like old albums, but not particularly long by since standards. I mean, I think that's a lot of albums going too long as it is, but like these songs are too long. They're just too long. I would just be like, when are they gonna end? Oh, they have like 2 minutes left, even though they feel like they've ended already. Like, if they're not doing anything clever with it or anything, it's just it went from being a. I mean, I wasn't looking forward to this album. I think we already know that. Um, Parts of it were like, this is less bad than I thought it was gonna be. But the song's just being so long. It's almost like by the end of the song, like the better parts of the song are almost like out of my brain. It's just like, what is going on here? It's like Matthew mostly just already made the point. Like I don't know what else to say other than that, which is just like, did I like this album? No. Was I going to like this album even with its shorter tracks? Probably not much, but I probably would have been like, this isn't horrible. But instead, it's like, what are we doing here?
I mean, what I thought, like, I went into this album with very low expectations. What I heard was may well be better than what my expectations were. I think certainly if each one of these songs had been 2 minutes each, it would have been better than what my expectations were. But as it is, every song was padded out to like 8 minutes or something. I'm going to be honest, at that point, I don't even remember most of what each song was. And,
All
it's
except
just, it was just,
I was gonna say all but that girl are like 5+ minutes long.
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
that
it
goal
was
is a
like, it
pretty
was like,
decent.
what? It was like, what? It like, the whole thing was just like a overindulgence. It's like you have these kind of just very basic singly songs that kind of have kind of a hook, but they just kind of all, thing that can only work for a very short period of time, but will probably be kind of decent for what they are if they're, in the proper context. These kind of short dance clubby songs, but they'll still, I mean, just little singly things that play over a speaker for about 2 minutes and it moves on to the next one and it changes up the beat a little bit. But in this case, no, each one of these songs, I mean, was like really long. I mean, this album, this was like the standard edition, but it acts like it was like the remix album version of it. Like, it was just an overindulgence. We didn't need this much Justin Timberlake. I mean, I don't really need any Justin Timberlake, but we certainly didn't need this much Justin Timberlake. It was an exercise in overindulgence. It was an exercise in tedium.
And can I say something?
Yeah.
And even me, who is basically the most positive of this album, I still like this album. It like I felt like there needed to be an editor. Um, like they needed someone to be like, hey, this doesn't need to be like some tracks do not need to be like 7 minutes long or something. Like there are some that work for me, like Spaceship Coupe, Mirrors, and Blue Ocean Floor. But like, let me read off the thing. Would you want me to tell you the length of songs? First track, 8 minutes. Second track, 5 minutes. Third track, 7 minutes. Fourth track, 8 minutes. Fifth track is essentially 7 minutes. Sixth track is 7 minutes. Um, Seventh track is like essentially 5 minutes. Eighth track is eight. Ninth track is eight, and the 10th track is 10 minutes. Like, I mean,
Padding,
yeah,
padding, 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 padding.
like I don't mind long songs. Like I love Stairway to Heaven, but also Stairway to Heaven feels like it's an 8 minute long song, but it feels like 2 minutes.
What a
I
good so
love
bunch of different stuff. I mean, the Justin Timberlake songs were just like basically the same 2 minutes, just looping over again 4 or 5 different times.
I mean,
I was so oh sorry.
oh, I was gonna say, well, technically, I would say Student Tie didn't do that, and I don't know if that's a good thing. I didn't like the opening tie. Once they actually got to like Jay Z and stuff, it's fine. But like, um, really, the only song that stood out in any way to me was that Gold because it was shorter. And honestly, I'm inclined to think that that's the best song on him, even though it's just like a knockoff of the Temptations. That's like kind of cringe.
I mean, it's the only one you
Like,
can actually really remember after a first listen. Everything else is just kind of lost in the swamp.
yeah, it's like I don't know what else to say about that. Um, it is
I'm
a
working.
little having him say some of these like "You're a Daisy" or whatever kind of pretty cringe because this is Justin Timberlake, and some of this is maybe just me. I don't have any problem with Justin Timberlake's NSYNC songs though. Like I don't feel gross listening to them. Um, I think I didn't really feel gross listening to this either though. I'll give it credit in that I didn't feel to it, but it's just a little odd.
Yeah, no,
Feels
this
a
this
little
this
wrong.
didn't
But
this
yeah, it's
this
not gross. I wouldn't say
this this
that this album's
album
gross.
it
There is
didn't.
some Justin Timberlake songs I have heard at times that make me feel gross, or like
Yeah,
his
this
previous.
album this album didn't like make me want to throw up like the Kiss album did. This album it was just kind of like it was kind of bland. You know, the Kiss album, you know, that's like drinking vomit. This was like just eating plain bread. It's not particularly gross. It's just kind of
Hey,
there.
hey,
I
hey!
like
Eating plain bread is good for you, I think.
True.
no, not really, but yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Only
But it's
since they've
not.
modified them.
yeah, I mean, well, actually, no, Brett has actually gotten healthy over time, like
Yeah,
since
that's
the
what I said.
40s.
Since they've modified them, it's only been healthy since they've modified them.
Like, I mean, here's what I gotta say, like, yeah, this album wasn't like unpleasant to listen to. It was kind of exhausting to listen to, but it wasn't unpleasant. Like, I wasn't like, oh, this album is so horrible, or like it's causing me anxiety or whatever. I'm not gonna say it helped. But well, that which
Wait, this
was
album,
just coincidence.
The Justin Timberlake one?
I said it didn't help with anxiety. Now that was only on the second listen through though, but like the first listen to it, it was just kind of just neutral. Like I was walking on like programming, and it was just neutral. The second time I did it, I was kind of anxious for unrelated reasons, and it didn't make it worse like the Kiss album. So in that sense, this album is massively better than Kiss.
Like another win.
It,
And I have one
it's
more
kind
thing.
of calming even in places, but like,
It's mind numbing.
yeah, it's kind of mind numbing. You're right. Like it's not a horrible album, or like I don't even know if I want to say it's a bad album exactly. Like I didn't feel like yeah, doing it. I did feel a little exhausted at times, especially my second listen through. Well, which was today. I was like, "Is the song done?" I've walked like a mile, and it's just been like one song the entire time. Because that's probably a little bit of exaggeration, but it was pretty close. It felt like I walked a long ways while listening to Push or Love Vocal, and Push or Love Gold. It's like why?
And I
Why
have
is it like that? And that
and I
yeah,
have
okay, that song is a little. Let's just be real. Like yeah, love is a drug metaphor or like common. Like I'm not sensitive to that or whatever, but it feels like the drugginess was being played up in kind of a way. I guess like it was excessive. Maybe in a different mood, it would maybe be funny if it was shorter. In the sense of like it is so excessive. It doesn't feel like he was playing it for laughs. But it doesn't feel like a parody song. It should be. Its lyrics are so excessive that it should be a parody song. But it's not. It doesn't feel like one to me. It feels not sincere, but like it thinks it's like seductive. Um and it's like it's not. It's just a bunch of references to drugs that aren't even like clever. It's like I mean the joke of the song, if it was a joke song, would be how blatant it is. Like the joke would be that he's a drug addict. That he just can't discuss this without referencing drugs. But like no, that's not what the song is though. It's just like it's played straight. And it's just like, what are you all doing? What are you doing? Um yeah, that's basically all I have to say.
I would like to say one more thing before we move on. I think if the album was like basically either cut certain tracks or just get rid of them. Let's say you just put Put Your Love Girl, Don't Hold the Wall, Tunnel Vision, and Let the Groove In. I think that this would be like be much better. That's all I have to say.
I mean, maybe though. Once again, I did not like Push Love a Goal. I found it forced, annoying, and then tedious. In a exhausting way, I guess. A way that is just not. I don't know. Like it was just like too much, and like I don't know. I I don't know beyond that. Like I did not like it. I just did not. If it went on for way too long, and it just opened the album such a weird note. Like I mean, musically speaking, it's all right. Like I do like funk elements of these songs. I like the soul elements of these songs. Like still all things about this album I do like. Like that I thought that's actually pretty decent. But like I don't know. I mean, some of this is I'm probably just messed with by like low expectations. But on the other hand, maybe it should have exceeded my low expectations. I think there was potential in here to have done that actually. I thought this album would be more gross than it was, and it wasn't. So that is a point in his favor. I'd like some of his folk, I mean, not folk, funk and soul stuff that I wouldn't say always works well in this album. Sometimes Justin Timberlake sounds a little weird doing it, but I think sonically it works well. Like I don't have any problems with the instrumental track on this album. Like yeah, at times it could be kind of soothing in a or calming in a nice way. But on the other hand, otherwise it just kind of sucks because the songs were too long. And also, I'm just not very attached to Justin Timberlake. And also, Push or Love a Goal. Or Push or Love Goal. So that works, I think, are bad.
Alright, we're going to go on now to which album we liked better. So once again, the album's order takes nation moments to hold us back, and the Trinity experience. We are going to be starting with you, Ben. Which album did you like better?
I obviously liked It Takes a Nation of Millions to hold us back. It's not a perfect album. The references to Farrakhan in it all influences from Bob Backian and stuff, which I don't suspect you all probably picked up. And all less obvious at Public Enemy than is in Rage Against the Machine sometimes. All flaws. Like, it is pretty flawed in that regard. Farrakhan is explicitly endorsed in this text, and that's not cool. Like, that's not cool. Farrakhan was going through a phase of kind of revival in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, obviously ending with a 1 million man march being a big success, even though it was not anywhere near a million people. And Falcon was working on mainstreaming himself while also not changing his, which is a pretty disturbing chapter of the movement's history. That being said, I think the aesthetics and the aesthetic accomplishment of this album, of the development of these sound collages and the use of hip hop to call out injustices, to call for aggressive action, perhaps too aggressive. I don't know. I can't really judge. That and the way the political messages meld with the way the sound collages, how they complement each other, makes this album an excellent, I would say, excellent example of like the potential of hip hop as a genre, like specifically hip hop, and like the specific strengths of hip hop as a very textual, like very lyric driven genre, and one that is driven a lot by samples. And I think this album, and also its successor, which we will hopefully cover on this channel at some point, um, really show that. So yeah, I mean, compared to Justin Timberlake's album, which was at best kind of soothing, and at worst tedious. Um, yeah, I mean, this one is just a lot stronger. Like, I think it's just like a lot more ambitious of a project. I mean, I would guess Justin Timberlake probably did have some ambition thoughts in his album. Clearly his songs are very long. Uh, and I think he's trying to draw from soul music and not. Why do I keep on saying folk? Funk and soul music from the '70s that was kind of going through a revival at that time anyway. But like I think he's trying to be ambitious in some way, but I don't think he's succeeding very well.
Alright, Matthew, which album did you like better?
Surprisingly, despite my criticisms, I prefer 2020 Experience. Mostly because the songs I would rather go back to than the Public Enemy one. Despite Public Enemy objectively is a better album, I just had more fun with 2020 Experience, despite my criticism.
Alright, and as for me, even though I didn't think either one of these albums were close to perfect, the one I preferred was It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. I just liked the way the music sounded better. Um, Personally, even if the lyrics are kind of flawed in some ways, that I disagree with. So, yeah, that's the one I prefer.
All right, who picked what? I think it's obvious who picked what, honestly.
I think it is. Does anyone want to hassle to guess who picked what?
Ben picked It Takes a Nation.
Alright, well, finally, I'm gonna say, okay, drum roll please. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. It Takes a Nation Most to Hold Us Back by Public Enemy was picked by Ben, and The Training Experience by Justin Timberlake was picked by Matthew. Wow!
Yay.
Wow! Damn. I would never have guessed. Alright, well.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. That's another wrap on another great episode. So, once again, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Good night.